Hey, AJ here, and today we are going to make pinwheel cookies for Christmas, and we're going to make them two different ways. We're going to make them the classic kind of white and red style, and then we're going to make them the Chicago style that I grew up with. The great thing about these pinwheel cookies is that they're relatively easy, they always look super impressive, and of course they're delicious. So let's get into making pinwheel cookies two ways. As always, these recipes are going to be vegan and gluten-free. Let's get into it. All right, so we're gonna get into some pinwheel cookies. By the way, if you're new here, my name is AJ. I help people make food they can be proud of. If you hit the like button, that really helps out this channel. That would be really cool of you if you did that, but no pressure. And as always, the full recipe is going to be linked below. Let's get into making these. So the first thing you're gonna need is a big old bowl, something like this, something big, something bowl-shaped, you know, as bowls do. And then we're gonna grab some vegan butter. I'm gonna use the Miyoko's brand because I love it. It's the best thing. And so you're gonna do the equivalent of 2 sticks or a cup of the vegan butter, and then you're gonna throw that in. You want it to be softened. Now, if you're like, oh man, AJ, it's in the fridge, you could throw it in like the microwave for like 10-15 seconds. Don't do it too much because it can't be liquid, but you can like use it to kind of get a head start so that at least you can start making this, because these cookies are gonna need to chill in the fridge for a minute because they're gonna look like cool pinwheels. You saw the intro, you know what we gotta do. All right, next, we're gonna do a cup of cane sugar. Now, if you're like, AJ, part of the reason I eat vegan and gluten-free or whatever is that I'm healthy. I'd be healthy like that. That's totally cool. You could substitute this with coconut sugar. It's pretty much 1-to-1. It will probably make your cookies a little darker, but besides that, they'll be just as yummy. All right, so we're gonna do a cup of cane sugar, and the first thing you wanna do is sort of cream this together. Now, if you're like, AJ, do you have to do this by hand? That seems like a lot harder than it has to be. It is a lot harder. If you have a stand mixer or a hand mixer, feel free to use that. I don't feel like bringing mine out. So I am just gonna do it by hand because this is kind of how I grew up making cookies. So we're gonna cream these together. And actually, while I was researching for this video, I realized that the pinwheel cookies I grew up with, which are the Chicago style, maybe I'll insert a picture here, are not the classic ones that everybody else in the world makes that are red and white, like that look like this. So I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. So I'm gonna make them both ways. It's not that much harder. It's mostly just a food coloring. And the Chicago ones do have a little bit of chocolate in it, which is, I think, kind of cool. So we're gonna make them both ways today, and we're just gonna split this the same dough so that we can have a variety of different colors and flavors. So you want it nice and creamed so that it looks kind of like that, right? You can see how it's creamy. So after you've done that, we're gonna throw a flax egg in. Now, a flax egg, 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed meal, kind of looks like this. It doesn't kind of look like this is the one mine is. And then 3 tablespoons of water, and then you're gonna let it thicken for like 5 minutes or so. So it's always kind of the first thing I like to do. And then you want to make sure it's looking kind of like an egg consistency. I say it kind of looks gloopier, and that's when you know it's done. And we're going to add this to the creamed sugar and beat it in. And it's going to look kind of brown, and you're going to be like, what? I don't want these speckles in my cookie. They're going to kind of dissolve away when you bake them. I mean, I've literally made like snickerdoodle cookies on this channel, and I put a bunch of flaxseed meal in it, and they just look like white sugar cookies. Don't worry, it's going to be okay. We're in this together. You're hearing that a little bit, right? We're in this together. I mean, we are, but I'm still sick of hearing it. All right, the next thing we're gonna add, which is kind of an interesting ingredient, but I think it's very Christmassy, is almond extract. Now, if you're watching this video and you're like, hey, I wanted to make some cookies to cheer myself up because this year's kind of sucked, this year being 2020, if you're watching this in real time, and you know, I just need some Christmas cookies to make me happy, but we're on lockdown, or my store doesn't have almond extract. Could you omit this? Sure, do whatever you want. Could you substitute it with vanilla extract? I would. But if you can get the almond cookie, it really gives it that kind of Christmas cookie smell. And I think it really goes well, even with the pinwheel that has chocolate. Chocolate almond, I think, goes together. I mean, there are chocolate covered almonds, so it would make sense. So we're gonna do 3/4 of a tablespoon of almond extract or vanilla extract or nothing, imaginary extract. kind of has that classic Christmas cookie smell. I've been obsessed with Christmas cookies this year. I guess I've been obsessed with cookies a good portion of my life, so that shouldn't surprise me. All right, and we're gonna mix that in nice and evenly distributed. All right, so that's nice and creamed. So the next thing we're gonna do is add some dry ingredients. Feel free to sift these and mix them before, but it's so few, I'm gonna kind of go straight into the wet ingredients. I don't think it's gonna be a big deal. All right, so we're gonna do 2 1/4 cup of gluten-free all-purpose flour. If you're like, AJ, I don't got no gluten-free all-purpose flour. I live in a rural spot, or my state is on lockdown, or I live in a food desert, or a real desert. Can I substitute this with something? You totally can. You can substitute it with rice flour, and you can also substitute it with oat flour. So I know sometimes these things are easier to get if you're in bigger cities or metro areas, but if you're like, AJ, I can't get that stuff, oats are usually available everywhere, and if you just break them down in a food processor or blender, that's oat flour. If you can't get this, but if you can find the stuff, and I know you can get it online, I highly, highly recommend it. All right, and then you're gonna do a tablespoon of baking powder, and then let's also throw in a little bit of salt. So we're just gonna stir this together. All right, so now what we're gonna do, this is coming together pretty nice. It's looking like a dough. You can see it there. Whoop. Better there? Cool. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna split this into half. Half of it we're gonna put in a bowl. That's gonna stay as a plain, you know, the white sugar almond cookie, and that's gonna go to the side. Then we're gonna take the last half and split it into fourths. 1/4 is gonna get the red food dye added. The other fourth is going to get the chocolate cocoa powder added so that we can get that chocolate swirl that you probably saw in the opening. So I'm gonna split these up now and get them and then start mixing in the food coloring, and I'll see you after that. All right, so we have our 3 doughs. We have the normal traditional sugar cookie, we have the red one, which looks a little pinker and purpler than I wanted, but we'll see, and then we have the chocolate one. So for each of the bits, for the red one, all you're doing is adding food dye until it's the color you want. I used a natural one, and it didn't make it as bright red as I wanted, but feel free to do whatever you want. And then for the chocolate one, I added about 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Again, feel free to add a little bit more, and if it's looking too dry, add a little bit of like oat milk, and that'll help bring it back together. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull out our cling wrap, and we're gonna put these into 3 little rectangles, and we're gonna let it chill in the fridge for about a half an hour. Bring it together. Great, that's one. I'm gonna put this in the fridge. Cool. And that's our chocolate one. Put it in the fridge. And then our last one is our red food coloring one. Awesome. And then we got our red one / purple. It's gonna go in the fridge for 30 minutes. They're all gonna hang out there for 30 minutes. And then I'm gonna meet you back here, and we're going to roll them out and put them together and make the log that's gonna give it that signature swirl. All right, so we have our 3 pieces of dough. They are chilled, they're nice and solid. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna roll these out. So let me grab my rolling pin real quick, and then we're gonna do this with a bunch of parchment paper, okay? So let's grab some parchment paper. All right, so you're gonna grab some parchment and make a workspace for your dough. I'm gonna grab the white dough first. We're gonna grab a little bit more parchment paper and lay it on top. We're gonna roll it till it's about 1/4 inch thick. Now, if you have the little rollers, totally use them. If you don't, you can just kind of eyeball it. So we're gonna roll out the white first, then the red, then the chocolate, okay? And then we're gonna bring it all together and start rolling these to make our swirl. All right, so we have our 3 doughs here. We have our white one, our red one, and our chocolate brown one. So what we're going to do is we have to share the white one, right? Because half of these cookies are gonna be red and half of them are gonna have chocolate. So we're gonna start with the red one first. So I'm gonna save this chocolate one for later. So that's nice and on there mostly. And so what we're gonna wanna do now is kind of trim off the edges so that it's nice and even. And then what we're gonna do is, using the parchment paper, we are going to roll it slowly forward, trying to, kind of like a Swiss roll, right? Where we're trying to keep the spiral nice and intact. So we're gonna start rolling. And so you can see we got, unfortunately, a little bit of a break here. So that's okay, actually. I know that that might give you a cause for like, oh no, my cookie is ruined. But actually, we're gonna cling wrap this and put it in the fridge. So you're gonna have a chance to kind of mush it back together. So let me grab some cling wrap. We're gonna wrap this little mini log nice and easy. Awesome. And now we're kind of just gonna roll it together to get it nice and mushed. Now you're gonna throw this in the fridge for at least like another half an hour to an hour. It could be overnight if you'd like. The gluten-free dough does dry out a little faster, so make sure you've got this nice and wrapped. And that's basically it. So I'm gonna roll it again using the vanilla and the chocolate, get that in the fridge as well. And then I'll see you in like a half hour where we're actually gonna cut them up and throw them in the oven and get these actually baking. We've got our Chicago style log. I've already done our classic style one and they're cooling behind me. So basically what you're gonna wanna do is after about a half an hour to an hour, you wanna pull this log out. And make sure you wrap it with a lot of sheets of cling paper because you never know if you're gonna be doing this on camera and you really want people to see you struggling to open this log. What we're gonna do now is we're going to cut them into rounds so that we can put them on a baking sheet, and then we're also gonna decorate the outside with some sprinkles. So, first thing you need, super sharp knife. Make sure you hold it like this. It makes you look very, very normal. And we're gonna cut off the sloppy ends. So you're gonna cut these into about 1/4 inch rounds. Look at that. I'm so surprised at how good these came out. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but you're not gonna do it. Okay, and then optionally, you can decorate the outside of these cookies with a little bit of sprinkles, decorating sugar, whatever. I'm using some red decorating sugar. And what I've been doing is I melt a little bit of the vegan butter. Any oil would work, coconut, whatever. I'm brushing the outside and then I'm dipping it into the decorating sugar. So now we've got to decorate these, get them on a baking sheet. You're gonna throw them, maybe preheat your oven right before you do this part, to 350 Fahrenheit. You're gonna preheat it. You're gonna decorate the outside of these, put them on a baking sheet with a lined silicone baking mat. They're gonna go in the oven for about 12 to 15 minutes and they're good to go. So I'll see you in a little bit. We're just gonna bake these off and I'm gonna see if I can get my fairy wife to taste one. All right, so I have my red, purplish Christmas cookies. They are done. My Chicago style ones are still baking. So we're gonna do a taste test with this one with my beautiful fairy wife. And I'm going to, I'll do the Chicago style taste test one. Come on here, pretty. Oh, sweetie.
Wow, they look pretty great.
You like them?
Yeah.
Awesome.
The swirl is pretty good.
I know, and this is my first time. Good, bad, medium.
They're good.
Good? You like it? What are you tasting since you've never had one before? Describe it to me. Take me on a journey.
There's some other kind of cookie, and it comes in like powdered sugar too. But
Yep.
what are those called?
I think they're called wedding cookies.
Yes. They taste kind of like that from the almonds, and I used to love them.
Yes, that is how they
This reminds
taste.
me of
They're
it.
kind of almondy. Scale of 1 to 10? What would you say that these are?
10.
10?
Yeah, you did a great job.
I did a great job?
Yeah.
You heard it. Give them a go. Are they impressive?
They are.
Have I impressed
It
you?
would be so cute to bring to like a holiday, whatever. Or even just to
Awesome.
have your own holiday.
Yeah. That's like what everybody's doing. They're having their holiday in their bed.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you for tasting it, Eep. There it is, a 10 from the Eep, my harshest, most beautiful critic. Okay, so after a semi-full day of baking, I've got my 2 cookies. I've got the one that we had the fairy wife just taste, which is like the normal cookie flavor. And then I got the Chicago style ones, which this is the ugliest one. I'll do a close-up of the cute ones. But this surprisingly looks a lot like the ones I ate growing up, which is insanely nostalgic for me. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to have them. They're pretty similar, but the Chicago ones have some chocolate in it, but they look uncanny. Let me see if I can do a side-by-side picture somewhere in here so you can see how close I am. So if you're from Chicago or you've ever been to Chicago during Christmas, you're like, oh yeah, what happened to those? That company closed, but now you can make your own. So I'm so excited to have this. So let me start with the normal flavored one. Yep, you were right, Eep, it's a 10. It's a U. That's what we call a 10 around here, a JD. Well, that is really good just by itself. So I'm even more excited to taste this chocolate one now. Let me give this one a go, see how this is. Holy crap. Eep. This tastes like what I ate as a kid growing up. It tastes just like it. Eep, this tastes like what I ate as a... This tastes like... If you're from Chicago and you missed these, I found them. They're here. You like that one? These are both amazing. I know JD gave us a 10. I'm giving myself a 10. I'm giving myself one full JD because this is really, really good. Well, that's it. We made some Pinwheel cookies. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, why don't you push the little likey button? Tell YouTube. Say, hey, you know what, YouTube? I approve of AJ and his cookies. And if you never want to miss another video like this, go ahead and subscribe and hit the bell. If you make these or even are just nostalgic for the Chicago style cookies, go ahead and tag me at HeyAJ Rivera. Thanks so much for watching again, and I will see you next time.